this story about Karen Chhour is not okay. It's not okay for anyone to feel like that they're in an unsafe workspace that's toxic. I will just also bring up how much people on the left have been talking about this, the Jacinders, the Martimers of the world for the last 3 to 6 years, and how the right have been going, no, everything's fine. Oh, snowflakes. So I think if anyone is unsafe in their workspace and they think it's toxic, I think that's something to be concerned about. But I also think you have to marry that up against if it was the people around you that were causing the place to be toxic for other females in Parliament in the last term, maybe it's a bit more than just everyone should be nice to me. Maybe it should be more about, okay, well, let's really sort it out and let's acknowledge the cocks from the last lot, as well as whoever's doing it this time around, and sort it out properly, Chhour. So I don't want to take away from her pain. I'm about to show you her crying. It's real. I empathize, but we can empathize and also be realists at the same time. Sorry, you suggest some thoughts? You want some thoughts, or should I play this 40-second clip first?
Play the clip, because I've been mulling this over in my head ever since I saw the story today. I think there's some complex thoughts in there.
Yeah. All right. This is from last night's news, so it's just a clip literally from last night's news on Stuff Today.
ACT MP Karen Chhour broke down in tears today, describing what she calls an unsafe workplace for her.
I can't control what the public is saying about my personal traits around being Māori enough or not being the right kind of traumatised person. Hearing it from other MPs, that shouldn't be allowed.
She's upset the Speaker is doing nothing about it.
I'm still a person. I'm still a person. And I feel like I'm getting that stripped away from me day by day in this place. I've had enough. I asked for an apology. That's all I wanted, and I didn't get one. And that is so disrespectful.
Like, I do genuinely feel for her, right? The only thing I want to add to it is that if we're going to talk about this, if Government House and Parliament's going to sort this out, you can't go away, and so I saw it in the text and I've lost it in the text. Oh, here we go. From this, Pota Williams, Kiri, Jacinda, Martima in there as well, who when they were talking about it in the last term, I'm not saying Karen Chhour did anything wrong, but certainly her party and people from her side basically told the snowflakes to get over it. So if we're going to have a conversation about this, let's have an authentic and real conversation about it, not just take it seriously now that one of our workmates is suffering this, Chhour. You had some thoughts.
I was quite affected by that. Like, I can see someone that is having a real sort of crisis moment there. And I do have some very real sympathy for the human that is there.
Completely.
I think looking at some of the things that have been said to her, they hit. They went for right here. And I think that the thing that hit me the most about what she said there is being criticised. That is she Māori enough? Is she not Māori enough? You know, and for someone that was raised in state care, away from her culture, that is not something that she had any choice or say in, I can see why that would fuck you off. That's crushing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crushing. But it's also on the same thing. It's like, there's someone trying to show you that is a thing. That because you're happy with how you turned out and you survived that doesn't mean that it's going to work out the same for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like there's heaps of study done that being attached to your culture is important to how you come out.
Yeah. And
it avoids that whole thing of like, are you half in? Are you half out? Are you not this enough? Are you too much of this? It's a shitty quantum. And she's saying that's not good enough, and she's right, but at the same time, she's going too far over the other side of things and saying that the culture of their birth is not important at all and should never be considered.
Yeah. So in other words, if you're saying that, how can you then cry they're not considered. If you're saying that shouldn't be considered, how can you then, I don't mean literally, Clive, but, you know, complain when someone doesn't consider it for you? That's sort of what you're saying. Her party says race should have nothing to do with anything ever. And she's saying, I can't believe how they're talking about my race. You know, it's like, cake, eat it too. How do you do that? How do you square that up?
It makes me real uncomfortable when people are sort of, you know, and we've had it here, we've discussed it here, you know, the terms plastic Māori or how Māori are you, or how much of this are you, and that whole blood quantum thing, it makes me fucking icky.
Yeah.
And I think the other discussion that we've had on the show before, and very much so when it's affected someone on our side, is that Parliament is way too toxic and tough. Okay, there's a place for robust debate and strong views, but this place, and you can look at it as a workplace, this is a toxic workplace, because the same thing keeps happening. Is that we see people that might have, you know, like quite an emotional attachment to what they're working on. And again, Karen Chhour was raised in state care. She is working in that area. That people will come in and have a go at her.
Yeah.
It's that something is wrong in Parliament.
Yeah.
Because it just seems to primarily affect women of colour, and it is chewing them up. Yeah. Regardless of what side of the debate they're on.
Two things before we go on to it. I don't know if you've seen the follow on from this today. She was on Tova O'Brien's podcast, and we're going to have a look at some of the things she said on there. But two things from it. I struggle not to have empathy for seeing someone in pain, so I do have empathy for her. Karen, if you're watching, don't go look at our chat, because I think we're the only two, Chewy, that are showing any kind of empathy towards a human being. Because, and I think what the chat's doing,
I'm not enjoying the chat at the moment.
No, welcome to it. But I think what the chat is saying is they're echoing in some more harsh ways what I just said. You can't expect to be a part of a party that says nothing should involve race. Nothing. There should be no weight given to race. We should all be the same. And then when someone does that to you, you are incredibly upset and offended by it. I have no problems with someone being incredibly upset and offended based on how they've been treated. But it's the line of, you know, we're all the same, we're all the same, we're all the same. They're telling me I'm the same. That feels strange. Like maybe she's learning what it's like to be under someone like David Seymour and having to actually now abide by the standard he set. Maybe it's less about her and more about him, Chewy.
Yeah. And this is what I meant by I have quite complex thoughts about this.
Yeah.
I think there's a systemic problem in Parliament, and I think there's a systemic problem when it comes to how MPs are in the House, and I think there's a systemic problem with how people treat MPs and how they talk about them in social media and all of that sort of thing. That is an issue that you can put in a box and put over here.
But do you think it's in Parliament? Because you've identified women of colour. That would suggest to me a problem in society. Just because it happens to be in that building, does that mean it only happens in Parliament to women of colour? Or it's actually a societal, systemic issue, and this is just the Parliament's outworking of it?
Yeah. I mean, Jacinda alluded to it, Kerry Allen alluded to it. We've seen it time and time again, that if you try and show yourself the unarmoured, here I am, here's the things I care about, you get chewed up. It's too much. You got to lock yourself away. And then we end up with a fucking building full of psychopaths who don't have any feelings, you know, and you can put that in a box. And that's part of this discussion as well. And I think the other problem, and I think why the chat is reacting the way it is, and the reason that I find this so conflicting is I see that speech and that person that is breaking there, and I go, that's right. But also, why are you part of the party that you're in?
There's a good chat. Let me put this up. This echoes what you're saying. 96 Scariot. Karen stood behind David as he dismissed criticism from female staffers who said ACT had a culture problem. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's the other aspect of it. So, I mean, do you sit there and you go, Karen, yes, you are 100% right. It is, you are perfectly valid to sit there and go, yeah, that's unfair unfair that's hitting me where I live, all of this sort of stuff. Completely valid.
But do you say
But
you're
then I
right
also
and you have
think
some
that-
responsibility?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's part of the same conversation of like, do you understand why people are so angry about it?
Yeah.
You're a person that was raised in state care and went through that machinery. Do you think that was, are you an example of a system working as it should do? Or were you lucky?
Mm-hmm.
Do the stats back up that you are the model of being raised in state care, or does it show that you were lucky?
Yeah.
And then do you turn around and go, if you were that same kid in that same position now, going through the machinery that your party is setting up, do you think you would be a success story, or do you think you would be lucky?
Do you know what would be interesting? Karen Chhour. I don't know how old she is, maybe in her mid to late 30s from the looks of it. Go back 35 years to the Karen Chhour then in state care. How do you think your ACT party would look upon you then? What do you think your ACT party, the ACT party you're a part of, would be doing for you, Karen Chhour in state care 35 whatever years ago? How do you think this party would have helped or not helped that child? I wonder what she'd say. Maybe someone should ask her.
This is why I found it so confronting. It's not a black and white issue, and these are it would be a real black and white issue if I went, oh, you know what, she's horrible, she's just, there is a real person there. It's different. It feels different.
Yeah,
it felt a bit gross, to be honest.
Let's just continue on this because she was on Tova's podcast, and I've actually haven't really bookmarked the exact time frame, but I'll play you the start. Then I definitely want to play you a second clip because it does get a bit testy. I guess Stuff has officially Karen gave us the time she said she was going to give us, but it seemed like she ended it up in a bit of a sort of ugly way. But let's just have a listen to a bit of the interaction between her and Tova.
Well, I've never walked the corridors and intentionally made someone else feel bad for being there.
Arguably, some
I've
of your
always tried
colleagues,
to
your
work
boss,
with
your
people.
boss have.
If you're accusing David of intimidating people in the corridors, I think that's a question you should be speaking to him about, not myself.
I'm
'cause
just
I don't-
talking generally
I don't know
about
any
taking-
incident of David intimidating people within Parliament.
I'm not talking about intimidating so much. I'm just saying taking some of the heat out of that rhetoric. And I listed a bunch of
I've
examples.
had my say. I made my stance yesterday. That we need to start getting back to debating the policy, and that's what I'm here to do today.
Which is interesting actually, because it's the right that play culture wars all the time. I mean, I think all of us would agree with debating the policy, but then the right comes out and talks about, make such a big deal about 14 layers of management. That's not debating policy. That's playing culture war bullshit games. And then when you get called on it, you run away. So yeah, maybe let's forget Karen Chhour in this situation, but maybe these people who are saying these kinds of things also need to acknowledge they're a part of the system that's causing the policies not to be debated. ACT, what was it, 2 days ago when they refused to take their pins off? That was a culture war stunt rather than getting on to debating the issues. So, I hear you, Karen, and I agree with what you're saying, but how about owning up to a bit of it, taking your own responsibility from it, you being the ACT party, and going like, well, okay, we'll start doing it from now on. I apologize for our stuff in the past, and get onto it and demonstrate to us how you do that rather than complain about that not being done when the ACT party is a part of not doing that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, we'll play a bit more of this.
If you Tova,
Final question then on this. So someone has intimidated you in the halls of Parliament.
I'm not going into specifics.
Okay.
I made my stand yesterday. I had my say that I'm just absolutely sick of the environment, the toxic environment, that those people know who they are. They now can't claim ignorance to not knowing that what that behaviour is doing. And I hope that moving forward, that the environment in that place goes back to the level that it should be.
Can you give an assurance that no young person sent to a boot camp will be harmed or put
this
at
next
any
series
risk
of
of
questions
abuse?
is interesting.
Those questions are actually not correct either. I
So
cannot
there's,
control
I'm not going to
somebody
play all of these questions, or else we'll be here the whole time. But now there's a series of questions coming up where Tova is really trying to nail down. And I don't think this is necessarily good journalism, because of course a minister can't give an assurance for something that might happen in a in care elsewhere. No minister for any part of any policy. The good ministry of good things to good people, you couldn't give an assurance that bad things weren't going to happen. So it's I wouldn't quite call it a gotcha, but it's pretty lazy journalism. But they go through all of that. And this is sort of the tail end of these conversations. So probably for 2 minutes, they've been talking about, can you give us an assurance? Will you rule it out? Are kids going to be physically, reprimanded? Will they be isolated? Now, to the credit of Tova, that's what the abuse and care report reported. So it's not like Tova's just pulling that out her ass and just throwing things. That's what was reported in the abuse of care report, what was happening. So that's the premise of it. But, there's kind of, it goes both ways. So let's just have a listen to the end of this bit where it sort of wraps up and kind of falls over a bit.
Yes or no's here. Will they be physically disciplined?
Of course not. They're not going to be physically disciplined.
Will they be yelled at?
Of course they're not going to be yelled at and physically disciplined.
Will they be put
These
into
questions
isolation?
are actually quite revolting.
Will they be put into isolation?
To make those assumptions.
Concerns raised in the Royal
No
Commission.
wonder.
So it's fair, because they're saying this is how the last lot did happen. This is how state care has been. How's your state care going to be different?
Be put into isolation.
No wonder people are getting so traumatised, because people like yourself are actually making implications that are actually really revolting. And I will stand here today and say,
but are
nobody's
historically
going to
accurate.
physically discipline these kids.
Will they be
Nobody's
yelled at?
going to have weapons around these kids.
Great.
Nobody's going to be standing in front of their faces screaming at these kids.
Isolation? Minister, will they be put into isolation?
We have moments where young people, even now within youth justice facility, if they are in danger or if they are endangering others, they may have a small amount of time where they are removed from other young people for their safety and for other young people's safety. But it will not be excessive.
What's the
and it will
maximum
not
time that
breach
they'll be
any law.
isolated for?
I'm not going to go into all those details, but what I would say to you is all laws will be followed.
Collective punishment? Will there be collective punishment? So if one kid acts up, will the rest be made to do push-ups or whatever?
Tova, this is a program that my expectation is children will be treated with dignity and respect, but they also need to take accountability for their behaviour. But some of the things that you're suggesting, I would say no wonder victims from those reports are getting re-traumatised.
No, I think it's
because
really,
you're putting those thoughts in their head with something that I'm absolutely not doing. And I'm telling you right now that I have said over and over again that is not going to happen.
We're seeking assurances from the minister that the same mistakes of the past won't be made again.
That you're actually implying that I would do that to young people.
I wasn't implying it. I was seeking assurances. Remind people what was found to be happening at Kura Waimanaki, a youth
I'm
justice
sorry,
facility
Tova, but
recently.
the time that I said I could be here is actually over, and I actually have another meeting that I have to get to.
Can I play you a clip from? Can I play? Nope. The minister's walking off.
So
That appears to be the end of our interview. I can hear her saying that was loads of fun in the background.
So I think the whole kind of, can you assure us that nothing bad's ever going to happen? They're pointless questions, but this is what the Royal Commission has found out. How can we be assured that those things don't happen in your setup? Completely valid. So yeah, really, really interesting. And can I say this, actually? I haven't been all that charitable, perhaps, with Karen Chhour. But she seemed to, if nothing else, she seemed to be across that policy and knew what was going on. Many of these ministers get out there and they don't have answers. She at least had answers. I mean, we don't like all the answers or agree with all the answers, but she seemed to be across some of her things. I'd give her more credit for that than perhaps I've given her in the past. But still, they're valid questions to ask, and there wasn't a need to call them things like disgusting and blaming Tova for re-traumatizing, victims. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Couple of small things I want to acknowledge here. obviously, I've gone through drill instruction and a bit of a boot camp type environment when I was in the cadets and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If someone's not yelling at you, it's not a boot camp.
Yeah.
Like, that's like to say that nobody is going to yell at these kids, I think is fairyland. Like, you all get up at the same time, whether you're sleepy or not. And that is because somebody is standing in your barracks with a metal bucket and banging it and telling you to get the fuck out of bed.
I guess
Like,
that's
that
if it is like that. That's if it is. I mean, we hear boot camp, and that's what I think as well. That's what we think. I mean, is it if they use the wrong word, will it be slightly different to that? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll wait and see.
I'm not there either, obviously, but and again, Tova going, will there be collective punishment? Again, that is something that is often quite in common with building a sense of teamwork, right? This guy has fucked up, and that is why you guys are cleaning the floors and he's doing nothing.
Yeah, you have to get around him and help him attain the level you guys are at.
Everybody gets at the same level.
Yeah,
rightly or wrongly, that's fucking how they work. I don't know how they're structuring this program. I don't know what's involved. These are the questions that they need to answer. We don't know the program. We don't know how it's structured. This is why there's so many questions about it, because we've had a Royal Commission report showing, hey, fuck, the machinery of the state has actually fucked up generations of kids.
Yeah.
And it's through really fucked up punishments and behavior from the people of authority over these kids. And here's a new course that's coming out with a lot of authority over these kids. We have concerns, and it's because of this.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the information, then these questions fill that space. And if the minister can always go, well, actually, I think that question's disgusting. No, it's not. It's just a fucking question. We need to know more about the program.
Yeah.
Because you're taking kids away out of the public eye, and we've just found out what happens historically when that's done.
Yep, 100%. Jane Powell, Full Metal Jacket. That's what I think. When I think of boot camp, that's exactly what I think of in Private Piles. It's like but that's what I'm saying. It'll be interesting to see. One of the things she did say in that conversation, which we didn't play, was all these kids going to the first one are volunteers and they can leave at any time. To which Tova responded quite quickly, yeah, but that's for this group. Once the laws are changed and things passed, that won't be the case for the next ones. But for these ones, I guess that is the case. So.
Yeah. I think all these questions are fair, and I wish that the minister had more to answer than just I am disgusted and personally offended that you've asked me this question. It's a shit defense to a question. I would have loved to hear about, no, there's safeguards against that. There are minimum staffing levels, so no one authority figure will be alone with any one inmate, cadet, whatever the fuck they're calling these kids.
Yeah.
That I want to hear about oversight. I want to hear about safety. I want to hear what the fucking program is.
What would have been really useful, like if TVNZ had the opportunity to go in, John Campbell go in and actually see what they're doing and go run me through a day and what are they doing? What do the mornings look like? Actually, if it's this answer that they're selling like they think it's going to be, obviously the research doesn't back that up, but if they think it's going to be, they should be screaming it from the rooftops what it's going to be and what it's going to be about. But
these are the things that we've learned from the Royal Commission. These are the danger points. Yeah. These are the things that cause this stuff to happen, and we have mitigation there. I want to find we have so many questions about we're against these boot camps because they're not shown to work, they're expensive, they're not going to be fair, there's no proven evidence of them being successful with these kids either here in New Zealand when we've tried it in the past or overseas. So what makes this course different? I haven't heard any answers. I haven't been shown any evidence. And I'm sorry, Karen, are we supposed to take it on faith that this time it will be different?
Yes, true.
14
That's basically
kilograms.
Yeah.
14 kilograms of people's stories said you owe the New Zealand public more than I'm disgusted you asked that question.